Hey, this is Ree here. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing. It really helps me a lot. And don't forget to check out my website, paradoxastrology.com. It's eclipse season. I can help you with anything. Book your consultation today. And if you would like more exclusive occult videos that I don't post on YouTube, consider subscribing to my Patreon. It also helps support this channel. Okay, let's get into this video. A very anticipated video about the upcoming eclipse on October 14th. So let's get into that. This is mostly for the world. So remember, this is mostly mundane Vedic astrology, Jyotish. So the very specific predictions I have are for the world. For you, you have to look at your chart. You have to see if any planets are conjunct any of these aspects, or else it might not directly affect you. So everybody is very different. That's why it's very important to have a consultation instead of reading this as a personal reading. It's not a personal reading. So let's get into it. Now, Mercury will be combust during this eclipse, and this will be giving us a life lesson. So our problem solving must come from inside rather than the outside. So some may feel confused and anxious, which happens all the time during eclipses. It's just the energy that people are picking up. But it can be confusing on the outside as well. But this is only because you're reacting to what's happening on the outside instead of going within. That's the ego reacting. That's the only reason it gets confusing. Now, the physical world is a manifestation of the inner world, not the other way around. So remember, the planets are showing us what's happening within so we can heal. As above, so below. This gives us unexpected events. Now, these events must come up so they can be resolved. There's no other way. We may feel at this time that we lack information because of this combustion. Problems with travel and transport as well can lead to confusion. It's always confusing relying on the Maya, the illusion, the physical world, rather than the truth within. This will be happening in Nakshatra Chitra. This represents the words glittering, brilliant, art, bright, beautiful, many-colored, illusionary, visually exciting, or magic. Virgo, Chitra is in both Virgo and in Libra, and it will be activating both. But in the Virgo, where it will have the moon and the sun, is health matters. This also is the nervous system. It's the labor force. It's services, including military service, especially with ruler Mars in Chitra in the Libra side. It also is the employment rate, pets and animals. Some could see a challenge that makes them suddenly take care of themselves, like lose weight, for example. Saturn is going to be in Shawtee in the 6th house at this time. Saturn will transit, because it's retrograding, into the Nishta hours after this eclipse, but this will still grab the energy of Shawtee. Now, karma will be around the areas that I mentioned. Also, some who were deceitful around health matters, previous health matters, will have to pay a price. Virgo and the 6th house with Saturn is also military matters, war, and armies. It's also Iraq and Jerusalem, Israel, and Los Angeles. Chitra is the drive for perfection, which causes suffering because perfection does not exist. Mars is with Ketu, which is creating a war, some could say a spiritual war, between the two in the matters of national wealth, material prosperity, the economy, banks and financial institutions, businesses, the stock market, and interest rates, involving creative fields, politicians, independent businesses, relationships that could be personal and that could be business-wise, the courts and the law. Mars is creating sudden deaths and violence. Ketu is creating sudden assassinations, persecution, imprisonment, and also sudden epidemics. Chitra is the appearance of things. This is going to cause a break in an illusion that we once saw. It doesn't look as beautiful as it once appeared. Something has shifted. A battle has begun because of this. This can include architectural structure of buildings due to war, national disasters, earthquakes, floods, landslides, fires, crops, and farmers should be cautious as well. The Lord of the 4th is in the 8th with Rahu at the Gandanta point, showing us death from natural disasters involving real estate and other signals of war. Opposition parties and parties to the government could see a demise of a leader or someone within the cabinet stepping down. This is also in the state treasury, national debt, foreign debt, stock markets, medical discoveries, insurance companies, social security, and pensions. So the eclipses don't happen exactly on that day. The energy starts to accumulate. So we've already seen a lot of these things already start to occur, and they will keep going for the next 6 months. For many, this could be within relationships, and it's time to see the truth. And for some, this is finance and markets, which were perhaps inflated. Later on that day, Saturn will move retrograde into Dhanishta, which is highlighting problems in relationships and finance. Dhanishta has a lot to do with relationships not going correct, and it also is the most wealthy on Earth. One caution about that is last time in November 2022, and this was when Saturn was in Capricorn in Dhanishta, because Dhanishta goes through Capricorn and Aquarius. This is when we had the collapse of FTX, which involved the richest people in the world. It's not in the same position. Like I said, this will probably involve more social matters, but it is a possibility as well that we could see some kind of collapse in the markets due to something that was illusionary, just to caution you. Now, these problems could be due to irritation, aggression with this position, but it's only to help you make something new from this challenge, because this nakshatra can make something wonderful out of nothing. And so patience is going to be key here, because we have Saturn in Dhanishta in a Mars nakshatra. So you're going to want to move and do things and take action, but Saturn will feel restrictive at this time. You have to have patience. The eclipse can make things dark, which is the solar eclipse, and it will shine light on October 28th when we have the lunar eclipse. It's best not to make any bold life decisions during this time until you have all the information required, which is after the 28th, and the ego calms down. Vishwakarma is the creation worker in most of the Vedic texts, which represents this nakshatra, and it is said to be an adept in Maya, which is the illusionary force that keeps the drama of life alive. And it's the illusion driving us. We have to ask ourselves, is the illusion driving us to the truth? Is it the delusion driving us, or is it the truth driving us? That's the question we must ask ourselves, because if it is the illusion, that could be to our detriment. What is real and what is illusion? We need to know this before we act out of anger. Now, like Vishwakarma, Chitra creates a care for reaching implications of what it's created. This nakshatra creates things without an implication for what it's created. It was a palace which Vishwakarma built for the Pandavas in the Vedic legend of Mahabharata, which led to the final great war. Kind of reminds us what's happening right now. The use of Ketu, which is higher consciousness, the energy of the ancestors, and Mars, which is drive. Use this to create something beautiful. Allow uncertainty to motivate you. Pain can occur because we're stripping away the illusion. And with Ketu, it's always best to surrender. You're going to want to push against things when it seems like you're losing, but you're not. You're just seeing the truth. So you just allow it. With Ketu, you just allow what's happening. Because if you push against it, it's going to be way worse. Mars will be in Shawtee at this time, and Shawtee is trying to maintain harmony by using warrior strength and the strength of Hanuman, which is self-sufficiency, power, and independence. It's fighting to protect its own individuality in finance, travel, and shipping. This can be with banks, laws, court system, and foreign affairs. With Venus in the 12th house, this could be a loss of money or relationships, and it could be triggering the court system to intervene, as in divorces. This could also be politicians sending money overseas for wars. This could also be due to leaders, Magha, or a loss of a leader as well. Now, the main nakshatra, Chitra, is what this is dealing with. The type of professions that will be affected, and like I said, depends on your chart, but this is mostly craftsmen, artisans, architects, design, fashion models, and cosmetic industry, plastic surgeons, a lot of different artists like graphic artists, photographers, broadcasters, independent entrepreneurs, business experts, interior designers, jewelry makers, anything that creates something beautiful. Builders of all kinds, landscapers, painters, novelists, production and set designers, art decorators, art directors, anything with theater or theater groups, stage managers, musicians of all kinds, and the advertising agencies. Now, I'm going to show the map on how many places this will affect. Mostly, this is affecting the US. This is where this eclipse will be the most visible. Now, it's still going to affect everyone because it's the macro and the microcosm that are both affected. So as above, so below. It will affect us individually, but it will affect the country of the United States as a whole. And the United States is going through a lot right now because it's going through Shawtee, which means that Saturn is close to the moon. It is actually right now pretty much conjunct. It will be stationing on November 4th, right on the moon. So that's when we're going to see the biggest things happen, but it's leading up to that. Things will never be the same for the US after this. One of the things that we saw was the weather disaster in New York, the floodings that was predicted in my last video, and you will see more of these types of events that will occur. Now, this will severely affect the US and its reputation and president. Biden's moon is in Aries in the 6th house, if this is his correct chart. A lot of astrologers use this chart, so I'm going to use it as well, and a lot of astrologers who have been studying for over 40 years. So I do trust what they say in that. Mars is actually in Shawtee, which is his possible ascendant lord. And the 7th house and the 12th house lords, which is Venus, will be conjunct Rahu in the 10th house. And Saturn will be conjunct Ketu in his 4th house, which can show a loss of reputation. The nodes will be in the 12th and 6th house axis, so the eclipse will be there. And when you have those, this can cause potential health problems. To the worst, it can cause death. Death is a natural progression in life. It doesn't mean that you're actually dead. It just means that you're moving on. So this is a possibility. The eclipse will happen in the 10th house of the US chart, which is the president and all ruling powers of the government, and can mean celebrities as well. There will be a battle with the will of the people, the parliament, the national aims and goals, enterprises, alliance, supporters, and this could mean a termination of a legacy. This is also the currency printing and the national treasury, because the Saturn is also the ruler of the 2nd house and the 3rd house. That's why it has a lot to do with money. Now, the finance of the country is at stake. The debt and the prosperity, the national debt, the stock exchange, and financial reserve. Also affected is transport. We could see this due to accidents and national disasters. Trade within the country and the way they communicate. Journalism, news, schools, neighboring countries, especially Canada. This could be immigration as well from neighboring countries, and armed forces. Like I mentioned before, war and national disasters involving water. For the world, we could also see stocks and markets, banks, financial institutions, families. There could be a loss of money, which makes people begin to start get angry and panic, a possibility. We could also see a demise of leaders, new medical discoveries, insurance, pension, a risk of war, national disasters all over the world. So I also find it very interesting that on October 4th, there was an emergency alert that was issued around the country in the US, and that was on October 4th was the direct conjunction between Mars and Ketu in Chitra. So I said, whatever happens October 4th, will be a precursor to what happens for this eclipse, because this eclipse is in Chitra. I feel like they know something we don't, and I'm going to leave it at that. That's what I see, and I think the US should be very cautious. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.